Hey everyone, I finally got around to making another video. It took some time. I, I had some issues along the way, but I finally have something I felt worthy of putting a video together for. So I'm going to start out this one with talking about my legs. I decided I wanted to get my stand built, get Ralph up on his legs, so I set about doing that task. And it proved to be a bit more difficult than I thought. Now, a lot of it I blame on myself because I'm not an experienced 3D printer. I did one little project before starting on Ralph. So I've been learning 3D printing as I've gone along here. And then I ran out of white filament in the middle of trying to do all this. And the store I bought it from was out of stock. The brand that I wanted, nobody else sells. It's Micro Center, specific brand, and so it wasn't available even on the internet. So I toyed around and waited, and I found another brand on the internet, and I thought, well, I'll give it a shot. And I ordered it and got it in, and it said it was white, okay, but I'm finding out there's no such thing as standards in 3D filament. It seems every manufacturer defines what they want to call white or what they want to call red, I guess. But what I got was really a cream color. It wasn't a bright white like I had been using. It was so mismatched that I couldn't use it. Meantime, my store was still out of stock, but I did discover that Inland's the manufacturer of Inland filament was eSun. So I found them online and I ordered their white. I got it in. Guess what? It's not the same white, but it was close. It had a little bit more of a blue tint to it. But I was able to get back to work. So with all that history there, let me go ahead and just start now and actually talk about my legs. Show you what I've been doing. Kind of move myself over here out of the way, and as always, I like to start out at the home page of InMove for those that might be watching this for the first time. And I go to build your index, legs non-motorized. And I always start here with Gail's tutorials. I think it's just a good place to start. And then I go to YouTube and I see what other people have done. And as typical, I'm not going to show you step by step how I built it, everything. I'm just going to show you the areas of problems that I've had. The other guys, I'll give you links below. The other guys show you all the steps involved and everything, how they did it. Beautiful camera work. But let's go down through here. What's important here that I found useful was many places he points out, where to add supports, and sometimes you need two of a kind. So he points that all out for you. Very handy and helpful. Here I wanted to stop and show you, this is a better one. Let me stop here. He constructs his leg with a steel rod that goes from the foot all the way up to the hip. And this is the hip end where it all attaches. And he does that because he kind of actually stands his robot on the leg. Well, mine's mounted on a pole and not being supported by the legs at all. So I didn't put a rod through it. And it just, you'll see my alternative. Maybe you'll like it. Maybe you'll prefer to use the rod. And skip on down here quick. And here I wanted to stop on this comment and just point out to you that some of these parts are big, and I had trouble with printing these parts. And evidently I'm not the only one. It's pointed out here. And Gail addresses this a little bit and says, hey, you really need a heated chamber right here. See, he says to avoid the warping and everything, you need a heated chamber. And ways to protect that ABS as it's printing. Well, I have an enclosed chamber that helps with drafts and stuff, and I'm sure it does retain some of the heat from the print table bed as it heats up, but it's not truly a heated chamber, and I ran into difficulties with it. And let me show you here what kind of difficulties I ran into. This was my first attempt printing the hip. So this was scheduled to take a day and a half, I think it was, with my print settings. I've since learned to improve that time. I had this on extra fine, accurate printing, very thin layer thicknesses and all that kind of stuff. And I've learned, you know, you can thicken up your layer thickness and cut time. So I learned all those shortcuts from watching YouTube. So investigate, find out what's best for your printer. But I'd set this up to let it start printing, and came back in the morning, and this is what I found. Somewhere along the line it warped on me. You can see right here it splitted a layer right across here. You can see it wrapped around here. It splitted a layer and warped completely out. And of course then all the filament just went haywire, crazy, and everywhere it felt like going. So that was my first go around. Man, I got frustrated. I was having second thoughts on all of this. So I went to the online groups and I said, hey guys, does you know anybody that prints these things? Because I'm just not going to bother. It's not working well on my printer. And they suggested, well, hey, you know, you can cut these pieces in the parts and print them together and then glue them all together as you get them going. So I thought, well, I'll give that a shot. So they suggested a program called Meshmixer, and I began teaching myself how to use it and how to do plane cuts and stuff. All these videos are again on YouTube. Just look up Meshmixer, and everything I learned from you can get videos on. So I set out to do that task, and here you can see I started assembling my pieces. I cut this sucker into 4 or 5 different pieces, and I started to assemble them. Well, for some reason I couldn't keep the accuracy very well, and I was getting gaps in between where the pieces fit, and you can see a good size gap there. So I got my pen down and I started filling it in. I thought, well, I can file it all down. You can see here where I've joined it across here and here. Right, and so I started my assemblies and wasn't going too well. Here it is kind of assembled, and you can see I would have a lot of work to do, filling and smoothing and all the techniques that would be involved in making this look like a solid piece again. And see how the texture here, the part actually kind of sagged and warped and moved. It just wasn't coming out the way I expected with the quality I wanted. So I did. I abandoned that. And here, this is on the on the tibia. The right hand piece here, that printed up pretty good. You can see I got that pretty good. Well, this side here, I printed it 3-4 times and it kept giving me this same problem right here. So I went back to Gail and I said, hey man, is your STL file good or is it corrupted? He assured me it was good. I took this part in the mesh mixer and remeshed it and everything. And finally I even joined it together and made it one piece in mesh mixer. Got a beautiful print on it. So with a combination of things, I discovered that I could pretty much print from the knee down on my machine, but the thigh on up, I could not. The parts were just too big. It seemed the higher up I got away from the bed, then I began to get the problems. You know, it was the cooling and the splintering at the layers and stuff. So I just wasn't up to the task. So I farmed it out. I went on Thingiverse and I found out that they have people there that run little businesses to do that kind of stuff. So I farmed it out. Of course, if you're better at 3D printing than I am, you can probably save that money. Do it yourself. But here it is. Legs all done and standing on the base. Good sized robot. It became impressive. Now, I've seen a lot of people that make the torso and everything and mount them on a pole and don't do the legs. There's just something missing about a robot to me that if you don't have the legs. So even though it cost me a little money, I got some good looking thighs made there and printed on the bottom half of the legs myself. You can see the color mismatch if you look close. You can see that foot is wider and the chest pieces here are wider, right, than the rest of it. So be careful. Make sure you've got a supplier that you know has got enough material to do your project. Well, you can have a long wait. I waited over 3 weeks and Micro Center still had not restocked. So I just moved on. But here he is with his legs on, mounted in the hips. Now the way I did this, they just slide in here at the hips and they come down. And remember I told you I didn't put a rod in my legs, all the way through my legs. But I did drill a hole underneath that foot. And in the foot, I used a 3/8 4-inch long bolt. And I put a bolt, a nut on this end here, you know, up inside, so that I didn't have to worry about that bolt sliding up into the foot. This allows me to drop that bolt down through the hole that I drilled in the base, and it keeps the leg stabilized, so I don't have to worry about it shifting and swinging around and so forth. Nice steady feature, and I liked it. And it was a lot easier than trying to run that rod all the way up. I didn't even make the pieces up in here on this end for doing the rod. I saved all that print work. So that's how I did the legs. It came along pretty good. Again, I'm impressed by the size. I didn't know. I knew Ralph was 5'10" according to Gail's statements, but seeing him coming along like this is impressive. I'm very happy with where he's going. I hope to share him a lot with the children and stuff. I think they'll like him. So with that said, let me go ahead here and sign off and go ahead and post this. Before I do, let me give you a reference here to a couple of the guys that can demonstrate for you on how to build the robot legs. here, and I'll put these references in my comments down below, in the description, I should say, I guess. So here, he goes through, Kyle goes through and he talks you through all the print process and how he did it and everything. So that works. And the other one, oh, here it is. Here's Cyber One, Fred's legs. He makes them, and he does them with the rod all the way through. So he gives you a good example of how to use the rod if you're interested in using the rod. So I thought I'd include that. There's two different views of how the legs were built. It came out real good. So again, let me just say I'm happy. I was frustrated along the way, but I hung in there, and I'm back on track again, feeling good. Thank you.